is Roshni. Welcome to Eclassopedia. I'm an educator here at Eclassopedia, and today we are going to dive deep into the topic of how to write poems effectively. Now, according to my personal experience, it would be quite overwhelming for you to know that poem writing is quite an easy task and you just have to follow few guidelines when you write a poem. But remember, these guidelines are really important, although less in number, because these guidelines are just going to boost your creativity and enhance your skills to the next level. Now, the great question is, how to write an effective poem? Well, there are some tools, poetic tools, that you should keep in your hand while you sit down to write a poem. So today, let's explore these poetic tools. So the poetic tools that you should always keep in mind are imagery, literary devices, and music. Now, what is imagery? Imagery is nothing but sensory experiences that you have in day-to-day basis. What you see through your naked eyes, what you smell, what you hear, what you touch, and what you taste. So when you sit down to write a poem, you should include a lot of imaginations and feelings so that the readers can get a perspective of what you were feeling when you sat down to write a poem. Now, this is my most favorite part as it talks about figurative languages. Now, there are two types of languages. The first language is called literal language, which means that the exact meaning of what we are trying to convey, the exact and true meaning. On the other hand, figurative languages means something that has hidden meaning in it, a sentence with a hidden meaning, and it is the responsibility of the readers to read between the lines. But remember one thing, you should never take a figurative language too seriously. Now, on your screen, you can see a piece of cake, right? Now, when I ask you the literal meaning, you would just say that, ma'am, it is just a piece of cake taken out from an entire cake, correct? While the figurative meaning of it is too easy. Yes, you heard me right. When something is quite easy for you, you say that it's a piece of cake. Well, I promise you that learning with Eclassopedia is going to be a piece of cake for you. Now, before I move ahead, let's begin with an activity. I want you to close your eyes for a few seconds and think of a person in your life with whom you have recently lost touch with. This can be a person with whom you have recently lost contact with, or a person who has recently passed in your life. Now close your eyes and remember that person. Think of the feelings associated with that person. Now, if I have to share my personal feelings when I close my eyes, it would be grief, despair, happiness, memories, grave, and soul. Now, using these words, today we are going to compose our own poem. Now, let's start with war poetry. What is war poetry? War poetry is something that deals with heartbreaking and gruesome details faced by soldiers when they are indulging in wars. It also poses the questions of life, like humanity, peace, loss of innocence, as well as destruction and crimes, right? These all words are related to war. Now, on our screen, we have a poem that I have composed myself for all of you. So let's start reading this poem. In a harrowing battlefield, between confusion, chaos, and conflict, a dejected soldier walked with a stagger. Here, the idea of my poem is to reflect the atmosphere of a battlefield after the war. Now, the atmosphere of the battlefield is quite destructive as well as distressing for a human being because it creates confusion and chaos in our mind. Now, there appears a depressed soldier. So when the soldier sees the atmosphere of the battlefield, the soldier's mind turns into a conflict and he starts contemplating what has happened in just a few seconds and whether he'll be able to regain his consciousness and will be able to lead a normal life in future or not. He walks in a really unsteady way because he's in confusion and he's not able to make up his mind for what has happened. The main idea of the poem is chaos because of the dead bodies that are lying around in the battlefield just like dust grains. As the gunshots lit up the dark sky, innocent souls flopped onto the motherland like thunderstorms touching the ground. Now, as the sound of the gunshots lit up the sky which was completely dark has become completely sparkled and it has completely shined now. Why? Because of the gunshots. And because of these gunshots, innocent children and innocent families have become target of this war. And now the motherland that used to reflect happiness and memories in earlier times, this motherland has become a reason for death. It resembles only death and chaos all around. It is more like thunderstorms when it touches the ground. So the terrifying atmosphere that it creates when thunderstorm creates and touches the ground, it is just compared to the gunshots when it lights up the sky. Ripping the soul apart, blood-stained flows, calling for mercy, soul shrieked in pain as the time died. Now these flows that were filled with blood, they were calling for compassion, they were calling for mercy, because there were some people who were still taking their last breath. They still had some hope left in their mind because they wanted to be alive. They didn't want to be the target of this war. Soul shrieked in pain as the time died. I would say that the time has finally died because it has led to death of many human beings in this battlefield. Now let's move ahead to explore some figurative languages used in the poem. So the first figurative language used in this poem is alliteration. Now what is alliteration? It is nothing but repeated consonant sounds at the beginning of words. Now whenever few words begin with the same initial, same alphabet, it is called alliteration. For example, in poem Confusion, Chaos and Conflict, the all three words start with the same alphabet, C. So it's an alliteration. Let's have one more example of alliteration. Maria made millions of marshmallows. Now can you observe something? Here M is being repeated in this line. Maria made millions and marshmallows. This is nothing but an alliterative sentence. Now, the next figurative language that has been used in this poem is metaphor. Now, what is metaphor? It is nothing but comparing two objects without using as and like. Now, when you are comparing one object with another without using words like as and like, it is called metaphor. Let's explore some examples of metaphor. Now, in the poem, we have used this word motherland as souls flocked onto the motherland. Here, motherland the land has been compared with mother because it reflects purity and innocence, right? Let's take more examples. His smile is my sunshine. Now we are comparing smile with sunshine without using the word like or as. Here it means that the smile gives us more warmth and happiness just like sunshine does. And then we have the snow is a white blanket. Do you know why snow is reflected and why snow is compared with a white blanket? Because a blanket is something that covers your entire body. Similarly, the snow has covered everything here. The third figurative language that has been used here is simile. Now simile also means comparison of two things, but here's the catch. In similes, you use the word like or as. Whereas when you are using metaphor as a figurative language and you are comparing two things, you never use the word like or as to compare two things. Now let's take some examples. Innocent souls flocked onto the motherland like thunderstorms hitting the ground. Now I have compared innocent souls with thunderstorms. Now why have I compared innocent souls with thunderstorms here? Because thunderstorms are something that creates a lot of destruction when it touches the ground. Similarly here, because of the destruction, the innocent families and children have lost their lives, as a result of which they have been compared with thunderstorms. The next example of simile is, he is as fast as cheetah. The speed of a boy, the speed of a human being has been compared with the speed of cheetah. Correct? So it's a simile. The next figurative language used here is personification. Now personification ideally means that when you are giving human characteristic to an inanimate object, an object that doesn't have feelings, that cannot breathe, you give human characteristics like aggression, powerful, feelings, happiness, sorrowfulness, jealousy. You give human characteristics to that object, and this is called personification. Let's take some example. Blood-stained floors calling for mercy. Here, the object is flows, and the human characteristic that I have given to this object is mercy. The flows were calling for compassion. Here it means that the souls that were taking their last breath, they were asking for compassion because there was still some hope left in their mind and they wanted to be alive. Next, we have the water bottle cried when it fell off on the floor. Now, can you tell me what's the object here? Yes, the object here is a water bottle, and the human characteristic that we have chosen here is crying. Now, water bottles cannot cry, right? Only human beings can cry. Yes. Now, the figurative meaning of it is the bottle spilled the water out when it fell off. Now, instead of just saying the bottle spilled the water out when it fell off, I can say that the water bottle cried when it fell off on the floor. So here we have given a human characteristic to an object that does not have life, which is a water bottle. Now, I have a question time for all of you guys. Now, there's a sentence on your screen which is, she is going through a roller coaster of emotions. Now, you have three options: personification, metaphor, and simile. I want you all to type in the comment section what you think is the correct option and which figurative language fits here the most. If you really like this video, please like, share, and subscribe to Eclassopedia, and I can't wait to educate you all, especially when it's about poems. Thank you for joining. Goodbye.